They have lied to you. For years, society has conditioned us to believe that safety means four walls, a mortgage, and a heating bill that drains your bank account every winter. But right now, at this very moment, thousands of people, smart, hardworking people just like you, are sleeping warmer and safer than you are tonight. And they are doing it inside metal boxes on wheels. The most disturbing part? They are using a survival principle that your expensive home was specifically designed to prevent. Let's look at the cold, hard math. A. Here is what surprises most people who are new to this life. Vans aren't chosen for romance, adventure, or those beautiful Instagram sunsets. They are chosen for one critical reason: invisibility. Think about it. An RV or a camper screams, "I live here, I have valuables inside." It makes you a target for thieves and a magnet for police knocks at 3 a.m. But a white, dented cargo van? That's just Dave the plumber finishing a late job. Or Mike the electrician parked overnight before an early shift. Nobody calls the cops on Dave. Nobody looks twice at a work vehicle. Unlike tent camping, which leaves you exposed and vulnerable, a van gives you something priceless: a lockable steel door. It offers legitimate protection from rain, snow, wind, and, most importantly, the guy who wants to steal your shoes or worse in the middle of the night. Some mail forwarding services even allow you to use their street address, so technically you still have a home for job applications and bank accounts. Wait a minute. Aren't most van dwellers just people who refuse to work? That is the biggest myth of all. Current estimates suggest that over 50% of vehicle dwellers hold steady jobs. They clock in, work their shift, clock out, and then drive to a quiet Walmart parking lot to sleep. The math simply doesn't add up anymore. Minimum wage multiplied by 40 hours equals an apartment you can't afford, plus utilities you can't pay, plus food you won't eat because you're too broke. The fastest growing demographic living this way isn't rebellious teenagers, it's seniors. People on fixed Social Security incomes, your grandmother's generation, people who did everything right by society's standards and still ended up sleeping in a driver's seat. So how do you actually pick a van that won't become a freezing metal coffin? Because not all vans are created equal, and picking the wrong one is a mistake that could cost you everything. Here is what the experienced survivalists know that beginners miss. The Ford E-Series sits at the top of almost every list. Why? Parts are available in every auto shop from Alaska to Florida, and critically, the high-top versions offer 6 feet of standing room inside. That standing room matters more than you can imagine. Try crouching for 20 minutes while trying to put on jeans in freezing weather. Your back will file a formal complaint before breakfast. But here's the real secret nobody talks about. White vans win every single time. Why? Because they look institutional. They look like contractor vehicles. A bright red van with custom rims? That is practically a neon sign screaming, "Come investigate me," to every passing patrol car. A white, slightly dirty van is the urban camouflage of the modern era. Now, let's talk engines. In this world, high-mileage diesels often get picked over low-mileage gas engines. It sounds backwards, right? Well, diesel engines routinely hit 300,000 to 400,000 miles with just basic oil changes. A gas engine at 150,000 miles is already middle-aged and tired. A diesel at that same mileage is just getting warmed up. When your house is also your vehicle, reliability isn't a luxury, it's survival. Then, there is the window situation. Windowless panel vans beat passenger vans with windows every single time. Why? It comes down to simple physics. Fewer windows mean better insulation, significantly more privacy, and fewer condensation problems. Every window in your van is basically a giant hole in your wall that lets precious heat escape and lets prying eyes look in. I have seen people choose vans with sliding doors because they look convenient. Big mistake. Those sliding mechanisms break constantly, get jammed with grit, and when they do, you are left with a permanent gap, letting sub-zero air pour in like an unwanted house guest who refuses to leave. Barn doors, doors that swing out, are simpler, easier to insulate, and harder to break. However, there is one absolute deal breaker you must check before handing over cash. Rust on the frame. Surface rust on the body or doors can be managed with some sandpaper and paint. But structural rust underneath? That means the van's spine is rotting. It could literally collapse or snap while you are driving, or worse, while you are sleeping inside it. Speaking of staying alive, let's talk about the invisible barrier that separates you from the elements. Insulation determines whether your van feels like a cozy cocoon or a freezing industrial refrigerator. Here is the harsh reality about cold weather. It doesn't just make you uncomfortable, it kills. And in a metal box with zero insulation, the steel walls actively conduct your body heat out into the night air, turning your living space into an icebox within minutes of turning off the engine. So, the first line of defense for most people on a budget is Reflectix. You have probably seen this stuff. It looks like bubble wrap sandwiched between layers of tin foil, and it costs about $1 per square foot. Van dwellers staple it to every single surface inside, the walls, the ceiling, and even the door panels. The science is simple. The foil reflects your body heat right back at you instead of letting it escape through the conductive metal skin of the van. But here's the truth that often gets missed. Reflectix alone won't save you from a Minnesota winter. It is a radiant barrier, not true thermal mass. That is where wool blankets come in. $15 at almost any thrift store gets you a heavy wool blanket large enough to cover an entire wall section. Hang them everywhere. Not only do they trap insulating air pockets to keep you warm, but they also serve a secondary crucial purpose: stealth. Wool dampens sound. It keeps your coughing, your movement, or your radio from echoing out to the street, making your van feel less like a crime scene from a detective show and more like a home. Now, here is something most beginners get completely wrong. They spend hundreds of dollars insulating the walls and ceiling first. Big mistake. The cold ground steals heat away from your body way faster than cold air does. It acts as a massive heat sink. Your floor needs insulation before anything else. I learned this the hard way during one very long, sleepless night in Colorado, where my feet felt like blocks of ice despite the heater running. Lay down foam board, plywood, and then a thick rug. Your future self will thank you. Windows are another problem entirely. Glass is basically a giant hole in your insulation strategy. The best solution I have found is buying rigid foam board, cutting it to fit the exact shape of each window, and then covering the outward-facing side with matte black fabric. This serves a dual purpose. Inside, it stops the cold. From the street, it just looks like really dark window tint. The van looks empty and secure, and you have just eliminated your biggest heat leak. Professional van builders use expensive spray foam for everything, but homeless dwellers achieve nearly identical thermal results using free cardboard from grocery stores. If you layer it thick enough, cardboard creates a honeycomb of air pockets that perform surprisingly well. The payoff for all this tedious work is significant. A properly insulated van stays about 30 degrees warmer than the outside temperature, using nothing but your own body heat. But insulation only slows heat loss. It doesn't create heat. What happens when the temperature drops to zero and body heat isn't enough? Now, here is where van living gets dangerous, and I am not talking about parking in the wrong neighborhood. Heat sources inside a sealed metal box can kill you faster than the cold ever would. Mr. Buddy propane heaters dominate the van-dwelling world for a good reason. They burn clean enough for indoor use, they produce serious immediate warmth, and they cost around $40 at any hardware store. But here is the catch that the manual doesn't emphasize enough. Indoor safe does not mean you can seal yourself in a tin can and blast it all night safely. Burning propane consumes oxygen and releases moisture. This brings us to the most important purchase of your life, a carbon monoxide detector. This is non-negotiable, and pay attention to this detail. Mounted at sleeping height, not near the ceiling. Why? Because carbon monoxide weighs almost exactly the same as regular air. It doesn't rise immediately like smoke. It often hovers and mixes right where your face is while you are dreaming about affordable rent. If that alarm goes off, you wake up. If you don't have one, you might simply never wake up. Then there is the Chinese diesel heater revolution. These $150 units tap directly into the van's fuel tank and pump dry, hot air all night long for literal pennies. Some van dwellers call them life changers, others call them fire starters. The difference usually comes down to proper installation. Unlike propane, which adds moisture to the air, diesel heaters vent the exhaust outside, keeping your van dry. This is crucial because moisture is the enemy. However, if you want the absolute safest option, look at electric blankets. Plug one into a small battery system and you are warm without any combustion happening inside your bedroom. Think about it. It is far more efficient to heat the human body directly than to try and heat 200 cubic feet of air inside a poorly insulated metal box. My neighbor's cat sleeps on an electric blanket, and frankly, that cat is smarter than most of us. Regardless of your heat source, remember the 1-inch rule. It saves lives. Always crack a window 1 inch while running any heater or even just sleeping. Yes, you will lose a tiny bit of warmth, but that airflow lets moisture escape and keeps oxygen levels stable. It ensures you keep breathing until morning. On the flip side, kerosene heaters are a hard pass. Never use them. They dump moisture into the air like a humidifier on steroids. 2 weeks of using one, and you will have toxic black mold growing behind your beautiful insulation, and your van will start smelling like a forgotten gym locker. Mold in a confined space leads to respiratory issues that can linger for years. Keep it dry, keep it ventilated, and prioritize safety over comfort every single time. Now let's talk about the one topic most people are too polite to bring up, but it is the absolute first thing you need to figure out. The bathroom situation. Because you can insulate your van perfectly, and you can install the best heater money can buy, but eventually, nature calls. And when it calls at 3 o'clock in the morning during a snowstorm, you need a plan that doesn't involve sprinting to a gas station that might be closed. The 5-gallon bucket toilet sounds primitive, even gross, until you actually have to use one. It is the great equalizer of van life. The setup is simple but effective. Line a sturdy bucket with a heavy-duty trash bag, throw in a generous layer of kitty litter or sawdust, and you have a functional emergency toilet. The litter dries out the waste and masks the smell, allowing you to handle nighttime emergencies without leaving the safety and warmth of your vehicle. Change the bag daily, and the problem is solved. My grandfather used to joke that it is like an outhouse that comes to you. That is progress, folks. But what about staying clean? This is where strategy separates the amateurs from the pros. Planet Fitness memberships are practically a currency in the van-dwelling community. For about $25 a month, you get unlimited access to hot showers at thousands of locations across the country. Do the math. That is less than $1 a day for hot water, clean mirrors, hair dryers, and actual flush toilets. Many van dwellers treat the gym as their morning ritual. Wake up at 6 a.m., head to the gym, shower, shave, and head to work looking indistinguishable from someone who slept in a 4-bedroom house. Truck stops work too, but they are the luxury option. A shower at a Pilot or Flying J usually runs between $12 and $15. That adds up fast. However, here is a hack that seasoned travelers swear by. If you buy diesel fuel, many stations throw in a free shower credit. Fill up your tank and handle your hygiene needs simultaneously. Between those showers, baby wipes become your best friend. A thorough wipe down keeps you feeling human. Veterans of van life call it a bird bath in a package, and it is often the only thing standing between you and feeling completely gritty after a long day. And let's not forget public libraries. They are basically community centers that offer free restrooms, climate control, and Wi-Fi, allowing you to regroup without spending a dime. Now, a working bathroom setup means nothing if you cannot sustain yourself with a decent meal. Here is the thing about cooking in a van. You have got about 20 square feet of total space. That is smaller than most walk-in closets, and somehow you need to make actual meals to survive. Single-burner butane stoves changed everything for vehicle dwellers. They cost about $20 at any Asian grocery store, and one fuel canister, which costs $2, lasts for about 8 hours of cooking time. However, there is a golden rule that nobody breaks without regretting it later. Cooking happens with both doors wide open. Always. It doesn't matter if it is cold outside. Why? 2 reasons. First, carbon monoxide. But second, grease. Grease buildup inside an enclosed van turns your walls sticky within weeks. In a small space filled with wool blankets, foam insulation, and clothing, that grease layer isn't just gross. It is a massive fire risk waiting for a spark. You are basically living inside a tinderbox, so ventilation is your primary safety mechanism. Canned foods become a staple for a different reason. Stealth. There are times when you are parked in a neighborhood where you cannot open the doors or make noise without drawing attention. In those moments, cold Chef Boyardee straight from the can is a lifesaver. It is not glamorous, and it certainly isn't gourmet, but neither is starving because you were afraid to light a stove. What about keeping fresh food cold? Professional builds use 12-volt fridges that cost hundreds of dollars. The budget solution is a small, hard-sided cooler packed with frozen water bottles. This provides about 3 days of refrigeration between refills. When the ice melts, you have cold drinking water, and refilling it at a gas station costs $2, cheaper than running a fridge, and it doesn't drain your precious battery power. The real money saver, however, is dry goods. Rice and beans provide a complete protein source for under $1 per meal when bought in bulk. It sounds boring, sure, but you know what is more boring? Being hungry because you spent your last $10 on fast food. And here is a clever tip I picked up. Many van dwellers utilize soup kitchens strategically. They don't just go for one hot meal, they go to prep food for the week. Take 3 containers of stew, store them in your cooler, and you can eat like a king for days. It is resourceful thinking, shifting the mindset from charity dependence to survival strategy. Of course, all this cooking and living creates another modern challenge: electricity. You need power for lights, you need to charge your phone to find jobs or maps, and you definitely cannot run an orange extension cord to nowhere. Power is the one thing separating civilized survival from absolute misery. Here is the technical reality. Standard car batteries are garbage for this lifestyle. They are designed to dump massive power for 3 seconds to start an engine, then recharge immediately. If you drain a car battery slowly by charging your phone all night, you will kill it in a month. Deep cycle marine batteries are the workhorses here. They are designed to release energy slowly over days, just like a trolling motor on a fishing boat. One decent AGM marine battery costs around $150 and stores enough juice to charge phones and run LED lights for 5 days straight without driving a single mile. Now, here is where it gets clever. Solar panels mounted flat on the roof generate roughly 100 watts daily, even on overcast days. That is enough to keep your basic electronics alive indefinitely. And because they are mounted flat, nobody standing at street level can even see them. It just looks like a roof vent or a luggage rack. But what happens when your house battery and your starter battery are connected? Disaster. You charge your phone and run your fan all night, you wake up and the van won't start. You are dead in the water in a Walmart parking lot at 6 a.m. with security walking toward you. Battery isolators prevent this nightmare. This simple device allows your engine's alternator to charge both batteries while you drive, but completely disconnects them the second the engine stops. Your house battery can drain to 0, and your starting battery stays full, ready to get you out of there. It costs about $40 and is worth every single penny for the peace of mind. Speaking of peace of mind, let's talk about something even trickier than electricity. Where do you actually park this thing? Finding a good van means nothing if you get a knock on the window at 2 a.m. or get towed. Waking up on a moving flatbed truck is not the alarm clock you want. Walmart parking lots remain the gold standard, but the landscape is changing. About 70% of locations still allow overnight stays, but individual store managers can shut that down instantly if people abuse it. The trick? Park near the RVs if any are there. There is safety in numbers. But here is the secret spot most people miss. Hospital parking structures. They are basically invisible. Security exists, but they are watching for people stealing drugs or breaking into cars, not a van parked on the 4th floor. People sleep in their cars waiting for sick family members all the time. You blend right in. Plus, those cameras actually protect your vehicle from break-ins. Industrial areas are another gold mine. After 6 p.m., warehouses, manufacturing plants, and business parks turn into ghost towns. The workers leave, you arrive. It is as simple as that. Just be gone before the morning shift shows up with their coffee and questions at 5 a.m. Now, the real secret to not getting caught is rotation. Have 5 to 7 spots minimum. Never sleep in the same place twice in 1 week. Neighbors notice patterns faster than you would think. That white van parked every single Tuesday night? Someone is calling the cops by week 3. Timing matters more than location sometimes. Arrive late, after 10 p.m., and leave early before 7 a.m. Most neighborhood watch types are asleep during those windows. You are basically a ghost with wheels. But even the best parking spot wouldn't help if someone decides to break in while you are sleeping. Living in a van means everything you own in this world sits in one metal box, and that box is a target. Here is your first line of defense, a $30 steering wheel club. It looks old school, almost embarrassing, but thieves want easy jobs. They see that bright red chunk of metal, and they move on to the next car. It works like a scarecrow for criminals. For the more paranoid or prepared, kill switches take things further. A hidden toggle switch wired under the dashboard cuts power to the ignition fuse. Someone smashes your window, jams a screwdriver in the ignition, and nothing happens. The van just sits there like a brick. And do not underestimate the power of light. Motion sensor lights might sound fancy, but we are talking about cheap battery-operated devices you can magnet mount to the outside of your van at night. If someone creeps up to test your door handle, a spotlight blasts them in the face. Most criminals run immediately. They don't know if you are awake, they don't know if you are armed, and that uncertainty is your greatest weapon. Finally, adopt the nose-out parking strategy. Always. Never pull nose into a parking spot or a dead end. When you back into a spot, you can see threats approaching through your windshield, and more importantly, you can drive away instantly if needed. Backing out of a spot takes an extra 30 seconds of maneuvering. In an emergency situation, those 30 seconds are a luxury you do not have. But here is the harsh truth that nobody tells you in those glossy travel blogs. All this physical security means absolutely nothing if the police keep knocking on your window every other night. There is a whole system for staying legal, and understanding it is your only defense against being ticketed or towed. Owning a van outright gives you a sense of freedom, but if you cannot prove it is legal, you are just one traffic stop away from losing your home. Current registration and valid insurance are not just paperwork. They are your force field. They can turn a terrifying 20-minute police interrogation into a polite 2-minute conversation. Police officers run your license plates before they even step out of their cruiser. Clean paperwork signals to them that you are a responsible citizen who is just down on their luck, not a criminal worth the hassle. Expired tags or a suspended license. That gives them probable cause to dig deeper, search your vehicle, and potentially impound your entire life. The laws themselves are absolutely bonkers and vary wildly from town to town. One city might charge you a $1,000 fine for sleeping in your vehicle, while driving just 15 miles down the road puts you in a jurisdiction that doesn't care at all. Los Angeles might crack down hard one month, while San Diego runs dedicated safe parking programs. It makes no sense, but you have to navigate it. This is why online forums become essential survival tools. Reddit communities and Facebook groups share real-time intelligence. Which neighborhoods are safe this week, which cops are writing tickets, and which new city ordinances just passed to outlaw vehicle dwelling. Knowledge keeps you free. But here is a glimmer of hope. Some cities actually want to help. Safe parking programs exist in dozens of American cities now. These are designated, secure lots where vehicle dwellers can sleep legally overnight. Churches, nonprofits, and even some government agencies run them. You get a guaranteed spot, sometimes access to actual bathrooms, and zero fear of that dreaded 3 a.m. knock on the window. The catch? Most of these programs have waiting lists longer than a DMV line on a Friday afternoon. Get on them early, but don't rely on them exclusively. Then there is the address problem. To function in modern society, a physical address isn't optional. Banks need one to open an account. Employers need one for tax forms. The government definitely needs one for your driver's license and benefits. Standard P.O. boxes often don't work for these official purposes because they are flagged as non-residential. The workaround is mail forwarding services like Traveling Mailbox or Anytime Mailbox. For about $15 a month, they provide you with an actual street address, usually a commercial building, that satisfies most legal requirements. They scan your mail so you can read it on your phone, and they can forward crucial physical items like debit cards to wherever you happen to be. It is worth every penny to stay in the system. Staying legal is only half the battle. The other half is building a daily routine that actually works. Van life has a rhythm, and once you find it, the chaos disappears. Most dwellers wake before dawn, often not by choice. The sun heats up metal boxes incredibly fast, turning your bedroom into an oven by 8 a.m. Plus, neighbors start noticing parked vans around 7:00. So, you are up, you are in the driver's seat, and you are parking at a coffee shop before anyone questions why that white van sat there all night. Coffee shops aren't just about caffeine, they are about renting normalcy. 1 cup of coffee buys you 2 hours of internet, a clean bathroom, and the ability to sit in a climate-controlled room looking like a regular person who definitely slept in a bed last night. It is a psychological break from the cramped quarters of the van. Then there is the laundromat ritual. Every few days you are washing clothes, charging devices, and often trading information with other dwellers. It becomes like a neighborhood gossip session, except the neighborhood moves every night. Who is cracking down where? Which Walmart kicked someone out? It is a survival network disguised as a chore. Maintenance happens weekly and you cannot afford to skip it. Check the oil, test the tire pressure, inspect battery connections. Remember, your van isn't just transportation anymore. It is your bedroom, kitchen, and safety system combined. If your engine dies, you aren't just stranded, you are homeless on the street. Nobody skips maintenance twice. Grocery runs happen every 2 or 3 days because there is no room for bulk buying when your pantry is a plastic milk crate. You buy what fits, and you eat what spoils first. Food waste drops to nearly zero because wasting food means wasting money and valuable space. Evenings follow strict timing. You park before sunset to settle in. You cook while there is still light to see what you are doing. You set up the bed before darkness makes everything harder. Fumbling with heavy blankets and trying to find your toothbrush using a phone flashlight gets old very fast. Routine is your friend. Here is what surprised me most after talking to hundreds of people living this way. Long-term dwellers often say their stress levels actually decrease after about 90 days. The uncertainty becomes a routine. The routine becomes automatic. And eventually, the automatic becomes comfortable. You realize you have everything you need to survive right there with you. But there is something nobody talks about enough, a looming threat that tests every single system you have built. What happens when winter truly hits? Temperatures drop to 20 below zero, and your whole survival strategy gets pushed to its absolute breaking point.